Topping today's news, a number of traffic fatalities recorded on the holiday weekend. The Coalition of Independents calling for an inquiry into the Minister of Immigration. Police investigators searching for the culprits behind two weekend shootings and a $10 million drug bust on Long Island, in addition to the U.S. cracking down on gun smuggling into Haiti, fueling criminal gangs. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn. This is your JCN Evening News. It is a pleasure to have you join us. An 84-year-old female of Abaco Drive on Grand Bahama has passed away after a traffic accident, leaving police to investigate this country's latest traffic fatality. The accident involved a gray Honda Accord driven by the deceased and a black Chevy Cruze driven by a male. Police say shortly before 1 p.m. on Saturday, the female was traveling south along East Mall Drive and the driver of the Chevy Cruze was traveling north on East Mall Drive when the two collided. As a result, the 84-year-old female had to be extricated from the vehicle using the jaws of life. Both drivers received serious injuries and were taken to the Rand Memorial Hospital, where the female succumbed to her injuries the following day. At last reports, the male driver remains in hospital in serious condition. Again, police investigations continue. A 16-year-old juvenile is one of two females police are questioning in relation to the hit-and-run accident which occurred on Monday, July 31st, when a female pedestrian was struck and dragged under the vehicle for a substantial distance while walking on Wolf Road near Palm Beach Street. The victim received gruesome injuries and died on scene. The driver of a red Honda vehicle was traveling west along Wolf Road and failed to stop. Officers attached to the Traffic and Mobile Division acting on intelligence arrested the teen who is suspected of being the driver, along with her 27-year-old sister, both of Rupert Dean Lane. They were arrested on Saturday. Officers recovered the vehicle involved in the incident in the bushes off Rupert Dean Lane. Police wish to thank members of the public as well as their media colleagues for their assistance in locating the suspects and the vehicle involved in this incident. Meanwhile, on Friday, a two-car collision resulted in a double traffic fatality with 4 others injured. The accident involved a black Volvo and a white Nissan Sunny that were traveling in the area of Queens Highway and Hermitage Road on Exuma. The two vehicles collided head-on. The adult male driver and a female passenger in the Nissan Sunny received serious injuries. Both died on scene. The two passengers in the vehicle, a female child and a female adult, were taken to the local clinic with serious injuries. The male in the Volvo received non-life-threatening injuries. Investigations into that matter continues as well. On the political front, the Coalition of Independents upping the ante in the saga revolving around the Bahamas Department of Immigration and its minister, Keith Bell. The COI delivered a document to the Office of the Governor General this morning, a submission of a commission of inquiry into suspected unlawful action of the Davis administration with regards to immigration. This submission of inquiry comes after it was revealed by staff of the Department of Immigration of transgressions within their department, particularly as it relates to the issuing of work permits as well as alleged interference with the work of immigration officials by Minister Bell. COI leader Lincoln Bain explains why they feel their actions are necessary.
We should not have corruption in our immigration department. Our borders belong to us. Our citizenships belong to us, and we must safeguard them. So what we decided to do was, after giving them a warning, we've decided to file for a commission of inquiry as it relates to the actions of the Minister of Immigration and probably other government officials in relations to his actions at absolutely operating the department where he should not be. He is a minister, and day-to-day is supposed to be done by the director. We are concerned of interference, and we are concerned of the documented evidence that we have provided to the public that the minister himself have issued work permits, even of people who were already deported and were recommended to be put on stop lists. We are concerned about these things, and based on his actions, we must have a commission of inquiry. We have had commissions of inquiries for lesser things.
Mr. Bain says the Minister of Immigration as well as the Davis administration have doubled down, insisting that the minister has done nothing illegal. Mr. Bain disagrees and says Minister Bell's actions in fact is cause for him to resign, as the issue has allegedly raised concerns from the United States as well.
We've had many ministers who have had to resign for things that were not unlawful or illegal. And so we are curious as to why the minister is refusing to resign when there's so much evidence piling up against him. We need to end corruption, and we need to end corruption now. And we have also received information that the United States government is also now worried about human trafficking of Chinese nationals. On July 16th, there was a capture of 6 persons that were repatriated back to the Bahamas, 6 Chinese nationals. And it seems to be happening on a regular basis now. We are concerned with human trafficking because of the obvious dangers of it.
While professing that their motives are not political, Mr. Bain says they have drafted a letter addressed to the King of England, King Charles III, to inform the world of the immigration crisis in the Bahamas, which he says is unacceptable. Mr. Bain reminded of 2 additional commissions of inquiry filed by the COI, which they say have not seen much progress.
We have filed for 2 other commissions of inquiry in relation to our natural resources. And of course, we have not heard, well, we heard back from the Governor General eventually that he was looking into it and that the matter was moving forward. And all this time later, nothing has still happened. And there seems to be some scandal as it relates to that. We are hoping that justice will reign. We are also adding His Majesty to this information. We're writing this information to him and sending evidence to the king himself. And we are hoping that justice prevails.
That was leader of the Coalition of Independents, Mr. Lincoln Bain. The official opposition is calling out the Davis administration, challenging the government to follow the law. And in the words of F&M leader Michael Pintard, stop the nonsense excuses. Since the Davis administration took office, the opposition has called on the government to release information on contracts awarded under its leadership. Just recently, Financial Secretary Simon Wilson told reporters that there is no definitive date as to when the government would comply with the Public Procurement Act requirements, adding that the government is still working to comply.
The Bahama Journal on Friday, August 4th, reported that the Ministry of Finance was still peddling nonsense excuses to seek to explain why the government has continued to break the law for almost 2 years now. For no good reason whatsoever, the government has refused to publish the legally required information on the hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts that it has issued since coming to office. The Public Procurement Act came into effect September 1st, 2021. In that act, and the 2023 version brought by the PLP, the government must provide the public with key information on the contracts it awards within 60 days of signing these contracts. By law, the public is entitled to know the names of the contract winners, the nature of the contract, and the value of the contract. The public corporations and authorities have a similar requirement for all contracts over $25,000.
Mr. Wilson acknowledged that great strides have been made. However, when asked about the delay in complying with the law, he noted that there is still a wait for some government agencies to upload contracts awarded to the bonfire procurement portal. Mr. Pintard contends that after nearly 2 years in office, the government is still not ready to inform the Bahamian people.
This hapless and wholly unaccountable PLP government is, according to the Ministry of Finance, still not ready to provide this information to the Bahamian public. It is contemptible nonsense because for decades all government agencies have been publishing information through regular public notices in the various newspapers. The only reason the public is not getting this information is because the Prime Minister and his cabinet colleagues are intentionally hiding information from the public. This clearly is a violation of our law. They clearly do not want Bahamian taxpayers to see how their hard-earned money is being spent. What is the big secret? What is the PLP trying to hide from the Bahamian people? So much so that they are happily prepared to break the law to do so.
Mr. Pintard asserts that the Minister of Finance, Prime Minister Philip Davis, is keenly aware that he is breaking the law.
As Minister of Finance, he was to have provided an annual report to Parliament last year, October, outlining all the contracts his government gave out. Earlier this year, he stated that a company was engaged to complete the report and that it would be provided soon. 6 months later, we realized that it was clearly all idle talk. That is the PLP way, after all. Long on talk, but short on concrete action. It is one law for them and another law for other members of the public. This PLP-led government violated the procurement law they met in place, and they are violating the law they amended, the one they brought in themselves. Absolutely no excuse.
Mr. Wilson, on the other hand, told reporters that he believes that the public will be pleased when the publication process is completed. Efforts are underway to establish a new policing unit in Haiti to address the matter of guns being trafficked into that country, a matter that the United States is having active discussions about, according to the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for the Caribbean Affairs and Haiti, Barbara Feinstein, who spoke on the matter of illegal weapons trafficking and arms gangs that are wreaking havoc in Haiti.
I would also add that in Haiti, we are in the process of establishing a transnational criminal investigative unit within the Haitian National Police that will include vetted personnel working with the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and others to look at the issue of firearms trafficking, to leverage the e-trace system, for example, that can track serial numbers to their point of origin in the United States, so that these cases can be put together and prosecutions can take place.
Feinstein says the United States is appreciative of similar illegal weapons units in other Caribbean countries, as well as CARICOM's cooperation in addressing the issue, as gun trafficking is not quantified to just one nation, but a whole region.
Finally, I would also add that the United States has been a strong supporter of the Crime Gun Intelligence Unit in Trinidad and Tobago, with support also from CARICOM Impacts. And that is a regional effort to look at issues around gun trafficking, since we recognize that rarely does it happen in one country. There is usually a network going across the Caribbean and elsewhere. So to the extent we can leverage all of these tools, we think that we will be in a much more comprehensive position to address gun trafficking in Haiti and the broader Caribbean.
The American official says in the form of the newly created Coordinator for Caribbean Firearms Prosecutions and the Safe Communities Act, signed by the U.S. President Joe Biden last year, should create stricter punishments for international weapons trafficking.
With respect to arms trafficking, we recognize that that is a critical issue in Haiti as well as the broader Caribbean, and is something that we are very dedicated to addressing head on. You may have seen an announcement by Vice President Harris when she was in Nassau in June, and followed by a further announcement by Secretary Blinken in July regarding the designation or creation of a new position within the Department of Justice, the first ever coordinator for Caribbean firearms prosecutions, and the naming of a very experienced prosecutor to that end. So that is one piece of the equation.
Prime Minister Philip Davis is on record calling for accountability from the United States with regards to gun trafficking from the United States into the Caribbean. And finally, the latest interdiction of dangerous drugs was a joint effort by UPAT, the Drug Enforcement Unit, the DEA, U.S. Coast Guard, and the local police on Long Island. This according to Royal Bahamas Police Force Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings, as a quantity of suspected dangerous drugs were transferred off of the U.S. Coast Guard helicopter to the custody of the DEU. Chief Superintendent Skippings updates the media as it relates to a major drug bust on Sunday, where 2 Bahamian men were arrested after an aircraft was discovered containing suspected cocaine weighing 1,202 pounds with a street value of $10 million.
It was shortly before midnight on Sunday, the 6th of August. Officers acting on intelligence went to the Stella Maris Airport, where they observed a blue and white Aztec aircraft. Officers conducted a search of that aircraft, and they found 16 white cocoa sacks containing suspected cocaine. An additional search of the aircraft revealed 5 additional coca sacks of suspected cocaine. And so we're actively investigating this particular drug bust. As indicated, we do have 2 Bahamian males in custody. One is believed to be a 61-year-old and a 49-year-old. As you know, many of the crimes that occur within our country occur as a result of drugs and firearms. And so it is always good when our agencies can collaborate and work together to interdict these such drugs from coming into the country.
Chief Superintendent Skippings further revealed that police are monitoring the airport and shipments coming into Long Island after noticing a potential trend of smugglers using the island to import dangerous drugs. Commander of the Royal Bahamas Police Force Drug Enforcement Unit, Roberto Goodman, expanded on these efforts and the trends that they are noticing.
Yes, we've been seeing that the most southern islands in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, we've been seeing that most of these traffickers are now using that as a hub now to transport cocaine, particularly these cocaine matters. And we've even seen a trend now because closer, you'll see like the holidays or when it's busy and some of the manpower resources are being used through the organization. We see that the drug smugglers try to use this opportunity to traffic drugs, but we'll continue to be relentless in the drug enforcement unit, and as long as we have the information, then we come in and we'll be arresting those persons who continue to traffic drugs in our Commonwealth. Well, still marijuana is still the primary drug of choice being used here in country. We see now an uptick in cocaine being smuggled.
Sir, can you state your name and position for the record, just for the audio?
My name is Chief Superintendent Roberto Goodman. I'm the officer in charge of the Drug Enforcement Unit.
Chief Superintendent Skippings underlines the importance of keeping drugs off the streets of the Bahamas while sending this message.
Many of our young men's lives have been spared because of the interdiction. And so we need members of the public to understand how important it is for them to collaborate and to provide that intelligence to your police department at all times. It is when we intercept drugs that we save lives, and we save the lives of our young men in particular that we see being gunned down on the streets daily. And so this is really a bonus for many families at this time as we're saving lives.
Is it known in your investigations as yet where these drugs originated from? Or is it...
We can't say definitively where the drugs came from, but we can say from the southern region. They're coming from the south and attempting to make their way up north.
That was Chief Superintendent Chrisling Skippings of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.